Hi, Melissa. Can you hear me?
Sorry, I'm still in a conference. I'm just, I'm doing both.
All right.
Are we now live?
Okay. Okay. Terrific. Let me just click this one button. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our policy committee meeting. Before we begin, just a little tiny bit of an announcement. Prior to this meeting, the board and members of our senior staff had an excellent education session. So excellent, in fact, that it went well over time and well through our allotted lunch period. And thus we will be having a working policy committee meeting, which will include the eating of lunch. So we apologize for our chewing during this meeting and perhaps some talking with our mouths full. However, the work of policy will be done. And with that, I will gratefully and happily acknowledge that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and St'át'imc nations. And now we have an agenda that needs to be approved. Is there anyone who would like
That the agenda of this meeting be approved?
Thank you, Lisa. And we have some minutes.
Second.
Oh, thank you for seconding. Moving on to the minutes.
That the minutes of the policy committee meeting held on April 12th, 2023 be adopted.
For that, Celeste, thank you. All right, are there any trustee items at this time? Seeing none, we will move on to presentations, of which we have none. And that brings us to our item number 5, information items. The 2022-2023 policy review schedule. And we've got Chris and Danielle assigned to that. So I'll turn it over to the both of you.
Right, I'll defer to Secretary Treasurer since I'll be speaking to the two policies for discussion.
Great, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, so I don't think there was anything specific I wanted to go over with in regards to the calendar, but we are reviewing 2 policies today that we had scheduled at the last time we'd met. So we were able to get those up and ready for today. One being the transportation policy, and then the other one is home education. So we did a lot of work. We met with the transportation staff on the transportation one so that we're all on the same page. And I'll let Chris speak to the 2 policies whenever you're ready.
I am great.
Sure. Okay,
Sure.
yeah, please, why don't we go ahead on to policy 610, home education.
Okay, thank you so much. So 6 home education was last reviewed only 2.5 years ago on November 18th, 2020. However, there is a few things we need to change given new ministry initiative that we spoke about last year as well, and that was the implementation of the provincial online schools. So we had done a session for the public as well, and it was shared on our website, and again, folks can find information on the provincial online schools linked within the amendment to the policy. We have the link there. And basically, that allows for students anywhere in the province, regardless of their home district, to access online education, either in full or in part. In the past, all districts were able to, that had online programs, were able to enroll students from outside of their district, but that has changed. Now it is only the provincial online schools that can enroll students in other school districts. So the change that you'll note is in the opening section. We had that as a please note. We have the link, and then under number 1, when we're describing our K-12 distributed learning or CSKI online, the addition of the wording in blue that RDL program is exclusively available to students who reside in the school district. So as of next year, we will no longer be able to accept students from other districts, and that's the same across the province. So we wanted to make sure that was clear. That has been communicated throughout the year to all of our students and online. especially those students who aren't part of our district. So this is coming as no surprise to any student or family not in our district. And then other than that, and that is a very important change, it was simply housekeeping changes that are there in blue.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments about policy 610? All right, do we need a motion as part of this meeting or?
Yeah, so it's a well, this is the whole
Committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole. So you will be making a recommendation to have this come forward in the open for approval.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think we could.
that would
do
be best,
Okay.
Stanton.
Okay, and then do that. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you for clearing that up with me. And then having that under control, we'll move straight on to policy 806, transportation of students. And Chris, I see your name beside that one as well. So take it away.
Thank you. As Daniel said, we did want to thank the transportation department for their input, of course. And as I think folks know, we've recently implemented a new system, electronic system for bus pass, to make things easier and clearer, so we know where our students are at all times. And the implementation of that, of course, has caused us to rethink and relook at our timing of when we're getting information out to the public and gathering information for folks who would like transportation. So in the amended policy, we've tried to include all that information there. So specifically, let's just go through it in order. A few, again, housekeeping changes. But one thing we were really proud to be able to share with the public and yourself, of course, is given the new system, we're able to track much better who's using the system for how long and the routes that we have. In our walk limits in number 2, we heard from the public concerns if they had a child in grade 3 and 4, and then suddenly, one year siblings get to ride together, but the next year they don't. We were able to, again, have them do a review of the routes. And now we're saying that we're going to go by the schools themselves. So elementary schools. And so if you're a K-5 school, K-6 school, K-7 school, it doesn't matter. We'll be able to accommodate siblings together in that school according to the walk limits. And we think that's going to be a very welcome change. And again, I just want to kudos to the transportation department who did all the number crunching to make sure that that's something that was something we could offer. So 2.2 then has also been changed to represent middle and high schools for the 4-kilometer limit. And we put in a different format, hopefully clear to the public, enshrining in where those exceptions to the walk limits arise when there's hazardous or other conditions that would cause us to have an exception. And so that's clearly labeled now in 2.3.1 in that table. And that, again, that was a couple years of work from members of this board and previous boards to recognize access issues for some of our families. So wanting to make sure that continues, and that is in policy now. And then other more significant change, I would say, is in the registration process. And because of the bus pass, it's an annual registration, and really clear that again, we're really trying to move towards having that bus pass. So again, for safety, we know where kids are, and we know what the demand and the use is. So we just clarified the timing for that. So what we're proposing is a change in 3.3.1 that bus registration will open on May 15th of this year, because we are just having the board meeting, so we didn't want to retro to April. So we're going to open it up May 15th, close on July 31st. But in subsequent years, we're going to open up registration quite a bit earlier in April. And we think that will again provide the time for the Transportation Department to ensure we're doing our best to accommodate everyone. And as before, this is not a change after July 31st, that any other applications for folks that are eligible need to be based obviously on availability, because it will take, you know, a reconsideration of our routing and our patterns of student need after that date to be ready for September. We're also endeavoring to, and it's in our policy, so we will do our best to do that, to have those passes in the hands of families before the first day of school. So there's not the confusion that happens over that next couple of weeks, because in the past, those wouldn't happen until sometimes late September, even into October. So this way, we're hoping this is a smoother process for folks. No, these are by mail. Again, we may want to move to that in sometime, but we want to also ensure that everyone has access, and by mail is still the easiest way.
I think,
And-
sorry, just to add on to that, I think that they actually have some kind of like a chip in them, so we can't send them like via
Oh,
email,
the-
like, cause you have to scan and this, like, for the system so that it knows who's on the bus. Yeah.
Makes
Mhm.
makes more sense. Maybe it'll move to an app in one day. I don't know. And again, if we have students who apply and there's eligible room after the start of the school year, then we'll get those delivered right to the school. So they don't have to come here. If they're in Britannia or Darcy or something, they'll be able to get the passes directly delivered to them in the school that they're attending. So we're hoping that smooths some things out a little bit better. Again, some housekeeping changes just for clarity. So if you look at the amended copy, you'll see lots of crossouts and whatnot, but on the fresh copy, I think it reads a lot clearer around the timing. We didn't make any changes to the spirit of 4.1.1. We just changed the language. We're always, you know, wanting to use strength-based language, so we thought it was just clear to read that way. You'll see we moved some of the items down where we felt it made more sense, because we wanted to flow through eligible students first and then speak to ineligible students after. You'll note that in number for 6, transportation assistance, we have students who may not have diverse needs, but still will require some assistance from their families to provide the transportation if they so wish. So we wanted to make sure that heading made more sense and include the situation where if we have had a student have to go to another school because it could be full in future or something like that, this is future proofing. We wanted to make sure that families knew that we would help provide that assistance for them to get to the further school if we initiated that change. Again, we cleaned up the form, so it's embedded in here for folks who require assistance that can just click right on the hyperlink, and the form is right there for them. And then which other change? All right, so under the private buses and vehicles, we just cleaned that up a little bit to make it clear, because if we decide in future to make changes to the existing 9.1, 9.1 actually contains 2 pieces. And again, when you're speaking to a policy item, it's a lot clearer for the public and for everyone if we can either reference 9.1 or 9.11. So it's really just I'm talking too much about it, but we get into policy here, so it's really just about clarity and efficiency moving forward. So I think those were the main changes, and if I've missed anything, let me know, or any questions.
Hey, Chris, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Lisa?
Looking at 6.1 on the transportation policy, are we needing to strike special needs in that paragraph as well to reflect the top section or no?
Yeah, so so 6.1 is a subsection, so transportation assistance is the heading. And then 6.1 is specific to students with special needs. And then 6.2 is specific to students that have been transferred, that still require transportation assistance. And that 6.3 is in either case, if you need assistance either because of a special need or because we've had you go to another school, then 6.3 is the full.
Oh.
So six is the heading, and then 6.1 and 2 are the differentiations. And I'll just mention we are still using special needs because this attaches to the Ministry of Education, which, as we know, the manual is in review, and we're anticipating a change to inclusive education and students with diverse needs. And we would make that a housekeeping change, and we would just do that as it occurs. So in case public or any people are wondering, I thought we weren't using special needs anymore. It's specific to this designation of students in ministry language.
Thank you. That makes sense. Celeste, go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for the work done on this policy. It's amazing. And specifically outlining what the exceptions are. I think that's really helpful to get that through for the public. Questions that I had. So 3.3.1, where we talk about what's happening in this year. It felt like that wasn't necessary to me, the fact that it will be between April and July 31st for starting a little bit later, because that's and the changes to the policy happen, but I just feel like we don't need that one.
Great, if folks agree, I'm happy to strike it out, because in future years it won't make any sense.
It won't make any
It'll be
sense, and it will
an
be
artifact.
almost immediate.
I know,
So
yes.
if everyone feels comfortable, can I make a proposal that 3.1 go away? Struck. Yeah. Right. Exactly, and we're still within, we're just a little bit later, but we're within the time period. All right, so do you need a motion to make that happen, or can we just say with the discussed?
That's a friendly amendment, and sounds like
Wait,
it's unanimous.
3.5. Still in there. My comment was the bus pass does not be used from year to year. So the bus passes that my children have today, why do they need to have new ones?
So my understanding is that's from the way the system works, that they can't use the same one, but we
you
can look.
disable them or enable them. Like if you wanted to, we shouldn't be riding the bus. Surely, we should be able to disable someone's bus pass.
So each year the bus pass color changes, so we know like that it's actually applicable for that year. Well, yeah, so we're looking into that, Celeste, but we're just going to see what kind of options there are. But for now, we're going to leave it like this because that's the way we're doing it, but we're looking into it. Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know the reason. So I appreciate that.
I'm not done, if I may.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So just to summarize what we just discussed, so it sounds like what you are saying, Danielle, is that you're looking into options to not have to mail them out annually so that we can perhaps use the same piece of plastic every year and save on the cost of the mailing and all of those things associated with it. Thank you for clarifying. 5.1.2. So my comment on this is, must there be a July 31st deadline? What happens if an application is made after this deadline and can it simply be first come, first served? Forever, I mean, up until it no longer is applicable.
You want me to speak to that a little bit, Chris, or?
No, I'm just reflecting, but go ahead. I might have.
Yeah, so I think the July 31st deadline is just for us to be able to like get them mailed out in the mail for August so that they're ready for September. But As like, I think it says later on, or there's in another section here that like we'll make exceptions like up until like as more come through. They may just not make it in the mail in time. We'd have to deliver it to the school. Like, so basically if you get it in before July 31st, you'll expect to get the bus pass in the mail. But if it comes in after that, then we'll have to see if there's room. And then if there is room, then it might not get in the mail in time. You might have to pick it up at the school. Like it just depends, if that makes sense.
So can I make this? Could I make a suggestion to just add like a few more words to our, because it sounds as though it's quite abrupt, so it's something along the lines of, you know, by July 31st, in order to ensure.
So it actually says that in point 3.4, any registrations received after July 31st will be considered based on seat availability. Early registration is encouraged. So that's basically
Okay.
the explanation
Yeah,
there.
no,
But I may
Sure.
actually, I think the public reading through, I think you're
Might
correct,
be
because
more.
that's why I thought we had it in there, but because it's up in the eligible students.
Yeah.
I think we can, I can easily add
Like a few
5.1.2 it's just the same lines.
A
Same
few
line.
words
I
just to
agree.
Make it 100%
They may just
clear.
skip to ineligible.
This is true. Folks will
If
maybe just go
they're
right
not
to that.
eligible, they'll just go straight to.
That's right.
Eligible.
So as
Please allow-
discussed,
yes.
amendments as discussed,
Thank
okay.
you. We'll do.
The next one that I have, and this is, I think, the final comment that I have, 5.2. I'd have to read it again. I said, again, can last year's passes not be reused and deactivated as necessary? Danielle has already talked about the reason why that can't happen right now. And I think Chris referred to this earlier. My comment was 1.5 months is an awfully long time to wait for your pass. So, but in your discussion earlier, you had articulated that the goal is not to have students waiting.
Right.
The goal is to get it to them as soon
Absolutely.
as possible, but it allows us for a buffer
That's right.
in case there's reasons why it might take longer to get the student their pass, but we're not
Right.
aiming for that.
Right.
We're aiming for September 1st,
Yes.
whatever, 5th,
Yes,
whatever days it starts.
yes.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna go to Melissa. I see you have your hand up online.
Hi, thanks. Celeste asked most of the questions that I had there. But I am wondering, is there an option to look at designing an app so that the kids can have this, the kids who do have phones can have this and not have the pass? And I'm also wondering how strict they are with the passes. I'm talking like where the kids are in a snowstorm and the kid doesn't have a pass. That I have to assume that child will not be left behind.
Yeah, so that's excellent question. So in answer to the first one, I mean, I know that the transportation department is always looking at efficiencies, and as Daniel said, you know, they're also looking into how we can ensure that passes can be reused, and if there's other opportunities, we can certainly look at those. Now, I'm assuming there will be costs, so that would be brought back to the board to discuss, because it's an annual fee as part of the budget. But I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to look into that, and then we'd bring that back to the board for discussion. And answer number 2, yes, you know, we have board policy, and that's what we endeavor to do. But obviously, in situations of safety and concerns, I can assure you, and actually we asked this other transportation department, and they also assured us they do not leave students stranded on the side of the road. So we really encourage the public, though, it's a public meeting, to you know, we'll work with you to ensure that any changes we need to make to policy to make it clear, make it understood, and make it seamless, we will do. But we really asking for that support, because if we don't do it in this way, and kind of really insist or encourage folks to, you know, follow the process and have the cards, we're not going to be able to offer a safe and effective system. We chatted before, and we were first talking about bringing in the system, that we actually didn't have a tracking system, and we didn't know who was riding the bus. And you know, for safety of our children, of course, we need to ensure that, and ensure that the district has a way of knowing what is the actual need. We know we're struggling, right? We've shared that with recruitment for busing. So we want to have as much information as possible to provide the best possible service. But again, Melissa, thank you for the question and the opportunity to just assure the public and all of you that we will not leave a child stranded. Thank you. Good question. Good point.
Thanks, Chris. And Rachel, thank you so much for your patience and waiting. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I couldn't hear everything that Celeste was saying, but I'm assuming this wasn't asked. I'm just wondering if the bus pass is transferable, if a kid, they have one route generally, but then they want to catch another bus to, they've got an activity in the village or something like that, instead of going back to Creekside, for example. So are they going to be able to do this?
So we would again remind the public and any students watching, which I hope they're not because they should be in school, that the purpose of the transportation system is for getting students to and from home, and where there may be a blended family and two homes on certain days of the week, we absolutely support that. But the purpose of the SD48 school transportation system is not to take kids to activities, friends' houses, etc. We know that our transit system does its best to provide service and again free of charge to students to 12 years old, I believe, right now. So yeah, it won't work. They I don't know what happens in this tone or whatever it is, but they're not registered to be able to transfer to or use any bus they wish. Again, that would be problematic in trying to ascertain what the actual need is for students that require the service. And I would just remind the board and thank the board for obviously supporting a school bus transportation system. But again, that the board is not obligated to do so, and that does come with extra and additional cost.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I add on to that? Sorry. So if they had mom lived up the valley, dad lived in Perkin, they would just very simply be given 2 bus passes, correct?
Oh, Melissa, can you repeat that? It was a little garbled.
Sorry, if mom lived up the valley and dad lives, say, in Birkin, they would just be given 2 bus passes. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if they're given 2 bus passes, but we do have that situation and I think they're accommodating it. I'm not sure how they're making it work, but they are.
Yeah, I think on the we can get back to you with specifics, but we do accommodate, and I'm not aware of any students that have 2 bus passes. I think it's done internally, but I can get you we can get people the details for sure. But I don't have the answer at this moment.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none. That brings us to questions of clarification from the public. Danielle, do you have anything? Oh. Oh, okay.
Make a motion to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we will pause on questions of clarification from the public. And yes, we do have a recommendation coming. Sorry, I was a little confused. I thought we were going to do it at committee of the whole, but yes, we'll do that now. Okay, please go ahead.
That the policy committee recommend the Board of Education approve policies 610 home education and 806, excuse me, transportation of students with amendments.
Okay, just wait for Archie to put that in.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor? And any opposed? Okay, seeing none, we will say that motion is carried. Thank you so much. Now we will move on to questions of clarification from the public?
There's none right now.
Okay, thank you so much. That brings us to our adjournment. I don't think we officially do, but we can if we would like. Would you like to move it, Lisa?
It's all good.
Okay.
See, if we concluded the business of the
Yes.
meeting.
Yes, we have concluded the business